You're listening to Poli Discourse from the iPhone setup that no one asked for. Nicaragua seems to be facing a continuous stream of conflict as the struggle with Daniel Ortega, their president, increases not only over election results, but also due to political action he's taken against the citizens, namely those who are political dissidents of his. We see that 222 political dissidents were arrested back in January of 2023, and later on we see that some laws that he enacts are questionable. What do we do with those divided in the nation? Some are supporting him and others are speaking outright against him. Those who supported the foundations of Marx's work, and namely that of the FSLN back in the 70s, are found either in prison or in power. What exactly changed? What caused this? What does it say about family divisions? According to El Faro, all of his family members are now in power, except for one daughter who accused him of sexual assault. All this is at the root of one single question. Does Ortega's presidency contribute to Nicaragua's pursuit of democracy, or does it reveal something about labels in praxis? Let's jump right into it. Portion 1. National Reconstruction. It's in 1979 that the Frente Sandinista de Liberación Nacional, or the FSLN party, takes control of government after overthrowing the dictatorship of Somoza during the Nicaraguan Civil War. Of course, Somoza and his family, under the Constitutionalist Liberal Party, or the PLC, had been in power for 44 years since 1937 on New Year's Day. The inspiration for this revolution was due to the vanguard literature, which was Marxist in nature, that was being driven by Augusto Cesar Sandino, and the goal was to inspire Nicaraguans to unite against the power of Somoza and the United States, knowing that they had taken control for 21 years in the Interoceanic Canal. And so the ultimate goal really was democracy within Nicaragua, regardless of anyone's ideology. Jumping to 1979, the government establishes the Junta de Gobierno de Reconstrucción Nacional de Nicaragua program on the 9th of July. And the main objective here was to rebuild Nicaragua's political structure. This was done with 4 other members, Sergio Ramirez and Moises Hassan Morales, which were representatives of the left-leaning military, Alfonso Rovelo and Violeta Barrios de Chamorro as right-leaning representatives, and of course, spearheading this project was Daniel Ortega himself. Subsection 1. Quick Facts. Here are 5 quick facts to help you out in your understanding of this issue. Number 1. Daniel Ortega is credited to be the first man in Nicaraguan history with bringing down a dictator. Number 2. It's during the 60s, while Ortega was studying law in his 20s, that he dropped out of university to fight alongside others. Number 3. During the overthrow of Somoza, Reagan's presidency saw the election of the 5-member board as illegitimate and forces the Contra to take down what appeared to be a communism that resembled that of Cuba and the Soviet Union, not just in Nicaragua, but scattered across Latin America. Number 4. According to the Junta program, the pursuit of a fair and just electoral system without discrimination and accurate representation, with the exception of the Somocistas, was the main objective. This included social progress with the implementation of literacy rates as the main goal. Number 5, Ortega takes power in 1985 as he becomes the successor to Francisco Urcullo, which brought a glimmer of hope for the future generations that would inherit the riches of the land. Portion 2. Transition. Things started to turn when the FSLN started cracking down on certain issues. According to El Faro, it's not just right-leaning voters that were left confused. Even members of the FSLN and those who hold Marxist ideals were left wondering what happened with Ortega's ideals. His first term as president lasted until 1990, and it was at that point where the citizens began to wonder about the promises made to rebuild the beautiful Nicaragua they had hoped for. In 1990, Ortega loses to Violeta Chamorro, who was one of the 5 signatories mentioned earlier in 1979, who broke away because of the deep splits within the FSLN, which grew more radical during Ortega's term in the 80s. The anti-American imperialist sentiment was growing stronger and stronger, and according to a report by the Economic and Political Weekly, the mixed economy was partially to blame for the failure, since the agrarian elites ended up with the capital from foreign aid, creating a new ruling class. This didn't help with the limited resources used for the health sector at the time either. A major contribution to the splits was the signing of accords with the Soviet Union, in which Violeta took direct opposition with and proceeded to leave while supporting the American Contras against the extreme Cuban-style system that the FSLN had hoped to take up. This was seen as Ortega frequently switching sides between the ideals that Sandino had once fought for and the Western style of privatization that was seen as adversarial. Those splits within the FSLN also included corruption allegations, which included the sexual assault of his stepdaughter, Sol America Narvaez, multiple times as a child, contributing to the loss of the consequent 2 elections. Then, in 2006, Ortega looks to reestablish control by looking to foreign investment. He reuses that same tactic. Subsection 2. Notable figures. Ernesto Cardenal, the famous Catholic poet and priest, was once in support of Daniel Ortega and opposed American imperialism like he did until 1990 for the discrepancies in Ortega's style in order to pursue power. He was deemed an enemy of Ortega and was given a sentence in 2008 that was, quote, a political sentence without any legal basis. Upon further analysis, the Sandinista judge at that time, David Rojas, denied that claim. Meanwhile, Cardenal claimed that it was vengeance for his dissidents all those years ago. Portion 3. Contemporary Crises. Having established the history of Ortega's origins and the shift in his power, we must now consider recent policy in light of his re-election in 2008. Ortega, as a result of his wife's campaign planning, ditches the green military outfits for blue and white, which are the nation's colors, and the red and black flag for pink, and pictures of the couple with messages of love and hope. While all of this is important, we have 3 things to consider. First is the governmental structure, which remains critical to the challenge of democracy. Those who make up the judicial branch are all made up of individuals that were appointed by Daniel Ortega and have supported his cause with the FSLN, with his wife acting as vice president and his children taking up government offices, one of which is Camila Ortega Murillo, who is a senior government official. These family members have been reported to have committed human rights violations and using tax dollars to reduce independent TV outlets that compete with the family-owned Canal 13. In 2020, there were 2 laws that were enacted, Laws 1055 and 1145. The first prevented any threat to public order, including demonstrations that opposed the interests of the nation. The second stripped the citizenship of anyone who violated the former and then sent those individuals into exile. Along with that, the electoral system must be the central focus of this dilemma. Felix Maradiaga, the former Nicaraguan presidential candidate, had created a coalition in February of 2021 of 5 main candidates belonging to different parties, marking a democratic approach since they had until the 2nd of August to go through the primaries. They were arrested before that time due to breaking those 2 laws, and according to Maradiaga, they didn't act fast enough. The arrest of 7 potential presidential candidates led to a win for Ortega's presidency that year. According to CNN, over 97% of those votes counted in his favor. Finally, Ortega's release of 2,500 inmates during the Holy Week this year is the most recent scandal on his plate. According to Nicaragua's national newspaper, La Prensa, the release of these individuals started with a meeting with the presidential couple, along with religious and municipal and government authorities at their side, to greet the couple with a message of peace, love, and gratitude. The inmates were then given a letter which spoke of the benevolence of, quote, Commander Ortega and his partner Rosario Murillo. Among these arrested from the start of 2018 to 2020, the majority were imprisoned for crimes related to drug and aggravated theft, but also crimes of a sexual nature. Having considered the Nicaraguan profile, the idea of a democracy must now be contested. Is Nicaragua truly a democracy? Has the theory and praxis ever existed in Nicaragua? Does the definition of a democracy change between the European and North American standards to Central and South America? Or is there a sense of normalcy that is unseen? These questions and more are to be considered as we wind down this episode. Until next time.